So, Slee, let's start with you about what you witnessed today when you went out there. Of course, distributors are hard at work, and also some warning, so to speak, from the Co-operative Governance Minister.
Certainly today we went to the breweries, one in particular in Krugersdorp, Shahan, the Chamdor brewery owned by SAB, and it definitely looks like they're back in business. Production is well underway to ensure that consumers will get all of their favorites come tomorrow. And what we saw today essentially were workers in this particular industry quite relieved and excited to be back at work and to be able to provide for their families. This particular industry serves around over 1 million livelihoods, and SAB in particular employs over 250,000 workers. And there's a value chain also that's added to this. There are a number of industries that rely on the sale of alcohol. So I think the resumption has been quite welcomed. There isn't really much different to the regulations in particular when it comes to the sale of alcohol that are different, except that the curfew is back in play. Let's take a listen to the Co-operative Minister.
With alcohol, people drink, they drive, they fight. And we've seen literally how during lockdown, car accidents, trauma patients, trauma units were emptying when alcohol was not allowed. And we also saw, when it was allowed, how it went up. So to then just open completely stands a risk of the surge coming back and overwhelming the health service. That's why it was agreed that we start slowly with Monday to Thursday, 9 to 5.
So, Heidi, let's talk about the tobacco industry. Any restrictions here?
No, Shahan. So we do understand that the President did announce that the ban on the sale of tobacco products will be lifted. And just hearing from Co-operative Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, there will be no restrictions. For example, there are certain restrictions when it comes to the sale of alcohol, but with tobacco, we understand there will be no restrictions. So tobacco companies are obviously welcoming this, given the fact that they've not been able to trade locally for the past 5 months. They've been able to export, but that market has also been quite limited as there are bans in Botswana and they were not able to tap into the markets in Lesotho. So the minister is only advising that people do not share, and we all know the famous saying, when people zull. Let's perhaps listen to what the minister had to say about that.
The reason tobacco was banned was that if you are a smoker for quite some time and you go into and you get COVID as it is a respiratory, though it affects other diseases, but other organs, but it does go into the lungs and the respiratory tract. There was evidence that was coming from other countries that the smokers would tend to have a more serious disease. But now that there are beds in hospital, there are ICU beds, there are also ventilators that are adequate should more people need them. That's why it had to be then allowed, and there are no restrictions.
So, Slee, let's talk about restrictions a bit more for the alcohol industry, and then restaurants in particular will have to deal with this curfew again, which they've complained about previously.
Certainly, you know, I think the alcohol industry in particular is quite just relieved to be operating again, because we know what the moratorium has done in terms of jobs in the industry and operations. So I think right now they're just going to take what they can get. They are, however, appealing to government to, you know, be really steadfast or direct in terms of the policies that they're going to be able to operate under, because I think the fear in particular is that there's going to be another moratorium or another ban, which which will result in, of course, more jobs being lost. Let's take a listen to what one of the executives had to say from SAB.
We really want to reassure our government that we are committed to supporting the national effort to curbing the pandemic. However, we need to really focus now all our efforts in terms of what is required to rebuild this economy. As a homegrown business, this means that we really need to make sure we maintain our almost 100% locally sourced ratio. We'll continue the local procurement initiatives. We will continue with our entrepreneurship programs, and then we'll see how the days, weeks, and months to come follow. But we really need policy certainty from our state, as well as ensuring that there's an enabling environment for business to thrive.
So Heidi, of course, we know that the tobacco industry has basically been banned from selling products for 5 months. They literally have 2 days to get ready and sell cigarettes. And we know people are going to be rushing to stock up.
Yes, exactly, Shahan. But one must also remember that the local market has been completely decimated due to the ban of 5 months. And the big concern here for tobacco companies, specifically FITA, we actually went to one of their factories today. They are worried that because the illegal market, the black market, has been thriving for 5 months, we do know that research reports from UCT have indicated that people were still smoking despite a ban in place. People were still buying on the black markets, that it's going to take a while for people to perhaps move away from the illegal markets and go back to buying cigarettes legally. And this is something they're very concerned about, but they are saying that cigarettes are available. They have been producing and manufacturing, and it's also been interesting to see how things start from the very beginning, the value chain. We went to tobacco farmers a couple of weeks ago, how that's been impacted, and now in the factories, how they've basically had to pick up the pieces from the bottom to try and make sure that consumers go back to the legal market because they've not been able to do so for 5 months. Let's listen to what FITA chairperson had to say.
It is going to take some time to root them all out completely, and it's going to be quite a challenge for the legitimate industry, because what will happen is that the criminal syndicates who operate in the illicit economy are going to be able to offer their cigarettes at a much cheaper rate than the legitimate traders, because they do not pay the requisite taxes. So it's going to be quite a price war in a sense, but we are going to attempt to engage with government and law enforcement agencies to try and deal with this issue, because it may be to the detriment of the legitimate industry in the long run.
All right, guys, you guys have to complete the saying for me together, all at once, right? When people zol, they put
saliva on the paper.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Our reporters Heidi Jalkos and Slindelo Masikane.